Hello, I'm Michael Redmond, professional 9-dan Go player. In this video, I'm going to be showing you a game between Shin Jinseo of Korea and KJ of China, and they played in the semifinal of the 28th LG Cup. So this was played in 2023, December 13th. So a few days ago, as I make this video. Shin Jinseo had the black stones and KJ had the white stones, and we're looking here at an opening it's a kind of a favorite for Shin Jinseo, and it's an opening that's being experimented with fairly widely by various professionals. The other semifinal in this tournament was Byung Sang-gil of Korea and Mi Yu-ting of China. Okay. So it's a star point and a 3-4 point. And usually you would probably expect black to play a Shimari in the lower right corner. But it's sort of a fad to play here. Partly because people like to dive into the 3-3 point so much. So another modern option would be for black to jump into the 3-3 point. But then quite often you would see white responding with a 3-3 point of whites. So there's this opening also. So white plays here. So this is a countermeasure in this particular opening. I could go back a few moves, show you this one. Again, with this one, their idea is quite similar. It's probably going to continue something like this. And black can jump into a 3-3 point. If black were to play, to defend the corner like this, then white would play some kind of extension on the side. If black plays something locally, white might sacrifice it later. But white wants to avoid it being captured on a large scale because white's gotten rid of the invasion at the 3-3 point, at R17. So once white has played that, white's sort of obliged to play some kind of an extension. The value of this move is it's putting some pressure on white, and black's probably trying to make sure to keep sente. So when white curls here, black actually has two local options, which would be, one would be to protect the corner this way, and white will play towards the side. So the exchange of 8 for 9, it doesn't work yet because, of course, the cut is going to be a ladder. But later on, white can use attachments like N17, sometimes O18, but that would depend on various factors. But more often, N17 would be a move that would, maybe not immediately, but this kind of thing, it would be setting up a potential cut here, where if black chases that stone, it's going to run into an Atari against the black stone. And so there's some potential aji here, where if black now takes the corner, white can start something here. So the surprise was that black didn't play either of the local options. So the other one would be this one. And white would invade the corner. And then, in this case also, black would have sente to play elsewhere, but black would have lost some territory. So in the game, black plays away. So this is a bit of a surprise. Black's asking whether white's going to play a pincer on the top side or play something like C14, just answering on the left side. And white did neither of those. So white did this one. So white continues on the right side. The value of this for black is that black got a double kakari in the upper left, and black can return to the upper right corner at some later part of the game. So I think it's a fast-paced way for black to play. This was the popular move in modern Go. So if white had covered here, it would have been probably something like this. And black would be trying to attack white in the corner. It's not a completely alive position. While white would probably be trying to make miai of some kind of a pincer on the top side or some kind of pincer on the left. So like if black plays here, maybe white's going to play here. Or if black plays here, maybe white's going to play maybe here. Instead, white gets the cut here. This is a move that white can do when the ladder favors white. So there's this trade. Capturing the ladder stone is pretty basically important. Sort of theory to take the ladder as soon as possible, because when you don't finish a ladder like this, you do have to face a strong ladder breaking move. So usually you do want to take the ladder. So it's a basic move. And black took the corner. So the upper right corner sort of reverted to something close to the joseki, and black got some territory in the upper left corner. So black is playing for territory. He's getting some extra territory in this opening. White played an extension. So white defended there. The right side there, it's not 100% white's territory yet. So there's going to be an invasion on the third line, probably R10, which could be a problem for white later on in the game. And black plays the extension. So this is the second point, or maybe third point. Well, after the upper right corner, I want to focus on how white invades a position like this. And there are various key points. So the game move was this one. And this is basically like when your opponent has a 3-space extension, this point is often a point where you want to invade. So this is kind of basic idea for white to invade here. And white continued with this. Yeah. So if black plays here, white can play a honey underneath, or white can play here. So this diagram, it sort of demonstrates the 3 points that white wants to play in one order or the other. So white 2 here is threatening to connect underneath, and also to connect underneath here. The 3-3 invasion for black is very difficult to make it work now that white has connected underneath at 4. So while erasing black's territory, white also has solidified white's territory in the corner. So it's multi-purpose invasion. It's very successful. Otherwise, this would be a common way to play. And if black plays this way, white's probably going to play the kosumi, although sometimes white can jump first. And I'm going to take the kosumi just because it's going to demonstrate the 3 points that you usually see the white stones coming into. It's 1 and 3 and 5 here. And so this would be, for instance, something like this. Or if black surrounds it completely, white would have room to live on the bottom side. So it's going to be something like this, where black is getting a very strong position in the left half of the lower side, but white has erased the territory. So I'd call this locally a success for white, although the fight will continue. Black does have some attacking options. If white plays h2 and black plays an attachment on top, this would be a very simple way of continuing the game. But again, when white connects underneath like this, white has dealt with most of the aji in the corner. So black's invasion at c3, for the most part, it's gone now. And that's what we're seeing with this one. So when black plays this 3-3 invasion right now, before there is a white stone at h2, it allows black to get that exchange in without actually allowing white to connect up quite yet. So that's an example of how sometimes black throws in this 3-3 invasion to sort of get something extra there in the process of allowing white's stone at j3 to survive or connect up to the corner. So white took the territory in the corner. You could say that this black stone was exchanged for some white stone on the outside. So either it's the stone that has the circle on it, the last white move at c5, or you could say that the black marked stone was exchanged for white e2. So when white captures it like this, locally that was a bad exchange for black, but black got an extra move for it, so it can't be helped. So that black should be satisfied. Okay, white's going for the profit on the lower side now. So white needed one more move here, and black invades here. So we come to a fairly important stage in the game where white has to deal with two groups that are potentially weak. And this is where KJ seemed to make a mistake. So in the game, white played here, black played here, and white bumped against black. And the result here was that white was split into two weak groups, and the group on the lower half of the right side, it was still weak. And the group on the top half of the right side was weak. So white had two groups to deal with. When I researched with Katago, actually, going back to this point, it was suggesting the peep here, which is sort of, it's hard to say exactly how black's going to reply to that, but if we just get the message that I'm getting here from AlphaGo, it's that white should make a quick life on the right side. So this shape, it's alive as it stands, and it would be, so that would settle one of the weak groups. And then white can focus on the other group. And then going on to white 54, the bumping against here was, from my viewpoint, just looking at the shape, it's an unexpected move. So the move I would think of first was this one. This was suggested by AlphaGo too, but it already doesn't look so happy for white. So white has a number of ways. White does want to stop black from breaking out on the lower side. And the best way to do that is to put pressure on that black stone. The latter does favor white, but black will just break through here. This variation is probably slightly better for black. It's a nice territory black got there. Black got the profit that he needed. But bumping here was even worse than that. So this is where the game started to become rather difficult. So just to back up and show you again, white should have settled this group on the lower half of the side. And then he would only have one group to worry about. It was a pretty important mistake, apparently. So this is where white started to get into trouble. Quite early in the game, he's playing here. This is indirectly putting some pressure on that white group on the right, while reducing white's potential of attacking black's group in the center. And white connected. So that's a reasonable move, making a living shape on the right side. One interesting thing about this joseki on the upper left is that white doesn't always, like you might expect white to answer this move somehow, but since trying to connect up at g18 becomes a ko, white doesn't always do that. So black just sacrificed the one stone. And so what black was doing with that sequence on the top side is black is starting to isolate this white group on the right side. So it's this group that has one eye on the third line by capturing that black stone, but white will eventually need another stone at S12 to make the second eye. Okay, this was a fantastic move, which makes use of the two cutting points here. So if black cuts at N8 especially, it's going to be threatening P9 to capture two stones there, and white can't deal with that with Sente. And also black's threatening to capture a stone by playing at M7 in a ladder. And so since that cut is very effective, black is threatening to do that and making it Miai with connecting up to the lower side with O5. White played this way and black cuts. So even playing here, it doesn't help white. So actually black would immediately do this and capture two stones. So this would be really bad for white. So there's no way for white to defend the two stones without actually spending a move there. So white played this one first, and white connected. So white needed one more move to stop black from peeping at P6. So, well, I guess peeping or cutting would work, but yeah. So white needed that one more move. Black captures the two stones, and so white has some weak groups here. So this group, it only has sort of one eye. All the moves that white would play to consolidate this eye and making another eye at G18 seems feasible with the, looks like white can make two eyes there eventually with maybe a ko attached to it. So an easy ko for black, that is. So it's not as if it's going to die outright, but all of these moves will be very small as far as territory is concerned, and it will be a bit painful. So that's why white doesn't really want to do that. And white started by playing an extension. So this was the last large move, and white's trying to efficiently help that group on the top side. We have to remember white's group on the right side is not alive either. He's playing a very strong center game, connecting up his stumps. So he's not really doing anything really active. After black plays here, white has to defend the right side. So white had to play here. It's worth about 3 points. So it's not a big deal as far as the territory is concerned. And black has isolated that group on the top side and starts to attack here. So the idea is that if white pulls back, which would be the move that would keep that left side territory, So it's the sort of the advised move. And now it has an eye that depends on a ko on the top. So just to show you exactly what that means, in this variation, white would eventually have to play here. So that's not an outright eye. It depends on that ko on first line. So there's that eye that depends on a ko. And then there's this eye that white needs to play another move to make that eye. So it's an unhappy situation for white. White's going to try to move out maybe something like this. And white would continue maybe with a wedge at J14 or something like that. It's not about to die, but it's going to be a fight in which black has potential to gain some territory, maybe towards the center or the left side. And in this case, black is playing moves that, like the exchange of 3 to 6, it's improving black's position in the top left corner. So that would explain white's fighting back here, but white's going to lose the left side territory because of that. So all of white's, it's not looking so good for white, but all of white's problems actually started on the right side. And I can't really fault white's choices on the left side here. So black gets a very nice shape there on the left side, and white plays this move. So this is a move that white strong players in general use a lot in this particular joseki. So I'm talking about the joseki where white got the ponnuki at G16 and black got the corner. So it's being played since AlphaGo, basically. Black can handle this locally. Black has, but if black plays here, for instance, white can wedge here and break up the black territories. So this is the one way that black can just keep everything safe. White does have this move. Usually it's not so terrible for black to allow the white group to live. This white group will live, but black gets a strong position on the outside. So usually this is not so bad for black, although sometimes it can be an option for white. In this case, it's better for white to reinforce the surrounding stones by simply connecting and getting a pretty good squeeze. So in this squeeze, white has a forcing move at F18. Also, white has a peep here, which can sometimes lead to scooping out some of black's territory in a sequence somewhat like this. So in some cases, white has this option. Also, we'll see later in the game white playing here. And with this move, white has potential to curl around later. White's going to lose this semi by one move. So it means white's going to get some kind of a squeeze. Okay, so white played away once. Black played here. And white played here. So with this move, white is trying to keep his territory. Actually, black could have played like this. This was an option for black. And the idea would be to reduce white's territory on the lower side. And black would be getting a connection to this side like this. So this would actually be better for territory. And when I ran this diagram through AlphaGo, it was saying that black was several points ahead. So this would have been a fairly easy win for black, apparently. But Shin Jinseo didn't play that way. Okay, so this move also, I think the suggested move was just to play here and here. So you can see how there's this emphasis on improving the quality of that black territory in the upper left corner, because if white gets to play at one, there's a squeeze, there's all sorts of the scooping out of black's territory at B15 and stuff like that. So improving that territory to keep that corner territory intact was a thing that AlphaGo at least was very interested in doing. And you can see black's just simply surrounding the center territory. Looks like black still had a few points of a lead. But actually black's thinking of attacking. Black's looking at a potential double attack against the white group on the left side and the white group on the top side. So this move, again, it's kind of a extreme move, where, of course, if black gets to play here next, it's going to be a very efficient way for black to surround the center. But white does sort of want to push through. I think white did do that. Yeah. Black is going on an all-out attempt to maybe even kill one of the white groups. So that white group on the top side for the time being, it's not alive yet. So let's see what white did. So white, yeah, so that was threatening to cut black off, and white plays here. So white's starting to make eyes. And yes, now white's alive. So just locally, if black plays here, it's this shape. White has half an eye at G18. So that eye, it goes away if black plays something, for instance, something like it could be here or it could be here. That's only half an eye then. White does have an eye at G16. So white can make a second eye here or here. Or it could play here, which might leave some potential to connect up to the center at some later time. So that's how white is alive on the top side. So black plays here. So this, it doesn't actually kill the white group on the side yet, but there's an extra value there. So if black, when black played here, white actually, white played here. So this was a position where you might have expected white to continue playing in the center, because later on white's going to get into trouble here. But there's this thing in the corner, which is a problem, which is the reason why KJ was protecting there. So when black plays here, even if white covers here, there's always this forcing move for black. So that's why I've had white play the diagonal move. It's the same thing, basically. And black can play here. And this is a living shape. So it turns out black actually had a life in the corner. So black could make a living shape. And black's going to be okay on the side too. So that's why KJ protected there. There's another reason also. So white played here. There's also the fact that this makes a difference to white's life or death on the left side. So if white plays here, this would be alive. Maybe white should play here. Depends on the Dame-Mari, of course, but this would be a safer way of living. Or if black plays here, it's not even a ko, because white has a forcing move here. Now white's threatening to connect up to the corner. And in this case, this wouldn't even be alive, because now black doesn't have that forcing move at A4. So white would be able to kill this. So white, but while playing this move to protect the corner, white also has extended some support to the white group on the left side. But black was threatening to kill this white group. So black would play here, and then some move on the top side would kill that white group. It would just be dead. So white answered on the top side. White needed that exchange there to be alive. And then black plays here. So this is just dead already. So white has to try something in the center. And it was interesting. White got to do a double Atari there. So that was working. But it's still dead. And actually, yeah, black played here. This started a ko, which seemed to confuse the game. I think black could have just played here. So in this variation, the problem for black is that white eventually has a cut at K13, which is sort of threatening black on the right side. So if black plays here, so there's these cutting points that cut off that black group on the right side. So that would probably, it's a bad idea for black. And on the other hand, when white plays here now, there is an issue with the black group here, in which white has a forcing move here. So this would be one example. So then white would have the forcing move here, which would threaten this black group with this tesuji, which actually captures the whole black group. So in this case, black cannot play at A15. So black's running out of liberties, and it's a collapse. So then, well, okay, what if black plays here? So in this case, white can capture this black stone, and this is not a full side because now black's just short of liberties. But it turns out, let's just get back to the main variation here. Yeah. It turns out that black can answer 8 at, and this actually kills the white group. So it gets rid of the forcing move at A14 and also the forcing move at E13. So it gets rid of both of those moves And so this was dead. It was dead as it stands. And it could be that he missed that. Or maybe Shin Jinseo just calculated the other variation, which it turns out that was a win for black also. But it was a lot closer. So I would have been uncomfortable with this variation where black plays the Tari and white's about to die. So white's not about to connect that ko. White's going to play the other variation where white gets to cut black off on the right side. So this black group is already cut off. If black plays here, white can play here to cut those black stones off. So it basically depends on that ko in the center at J11. That's what's going to decide the game. So black takes the ko. If black wins the ko and sacrifices the right side, so for instance, something like this, a variation like this is a win for black. So this is pretty close to what actually happened in the game. But white's not going to give up that easily. So in the game, white continued playing the ko. Black had a ko thread on the top side. With this move, white is trying to take the right side on a large scale here. And then white's going to live on the top side and sacrifice the left side. So that was white's idea. Black captured the two stones. So this was a slight improvement for white because white got to capture these two stones instead of losing this stone. So in that way, it was a slight improvement for white, although black did get a double capture in the center, which was better than connecting the ko. And so now it's just an endgame. So suddenly, after they've done this trade, it's an endgame. I couldn't find anything wrong with the endgame. And it looks like black has a small but secure win. So they're just playing endgame moves now. Let's take it through the endgame. Yes, so after all that fighting, they sort of filled the board up with the fighting. So they didn't have a lot of endgame to play. So Shin Jinseo found a way in this variation to win by a small margin. And they're filling liberty. So yeah. So that was the end of the game. And KJ lost. So Shin Jinseo won 1.5 points. And he proceeds to the final, which will be sometime in January next year. So it's going to be a while. The other semifinal was between Byung Sang-gil and Mi Yu-ting. And Byung Sang-gil won that. So the final is going to be between two Korean players. Maybe I'll be able to do that one. I don't really know what my schedule is going to be at that time, but I'll try. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back. Goodbye.